In the last video I showed you how I set up simple bars and implemented them into Streamlabs ops. Today I'm gonna show some more blueprints to make the bars more impressive and versatile. In this video I'll also be using Unreal Engine 4 and Streamlabs ops. We create and open a widget. As I've shown how to make the bars in the last video, I will skip the general stuff and only mention the mandatory differences. First we make 3 bars. And organize how we please. Each of these bars and their float value will represent one color and how dominant it will be. Now what I prefer to do in this scenario is to number the values after the commonly stored RGB values, which range from 0 to 255. Now this is optional, you can keep it on 100, but I will be changing my clamp value and division values to 255. We will rename each bar's connected values red, green and blue to keep them apart. If you do not know how to set up a bar and its values, I do recommend watching my first video, where I go more in depth on it. If you want a visual representation of which color each bar represents, you can go on the right and change the bar's fill color to properly show which bar it is. We will add an image and go to its color and opacity on the right. Here we will create a binding for it. In here we will drag up from the return value and pick Make Linear Color. We now connect our colors to their corresponding slots. The fourth value stands for alpha, which determines how transparent an object is. If you leave this at 0, it will not show up at all. Remember to divide with the same value you have on your clamps. Just like the bar filler value, our number values range from 0 to 1, so if you don't do this, we will only get unicolored values. Compiling and playing now should show our image changing in color, determined by our 3 values. This function can also be bound to our bar's color to make them match. To do this, simply go to the bar's fill and color opacity, click the bind button and select our new function. Now we're gonna add text to our bars and a button each to turn them on and off. Change the button text so you understand their purpose. And then add a text for your bars. Unlike buttons, bars cannot contain text the same way, so we'll simply put it on top. If you select something on your widget, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it around. The default text on this one won't matter since it will be bound to a value. However, you can set it to something so you might see how it will look like. Make sure that the bar's text colors can be seen on both the bar's background and fill colors. Scroll down to visibility and create our binding. In here we'll want a branch that will determine whether our text is visible or hidden. We'll duplicate the return node and connect them to true and false, setting the false one to hidden. We will now create a boolean variable. A boolean variable is a true or false value, which will always give 1 for true and 0 for false. Plugging it into the branch will determine the path. We will need to make a second function with its own separate value for our second bar text. Now we need to make our button switch the value between true and false. There are generally 2 ways to do this. The first is the flip-flop, and the second is the true and false branch. The flip-flop will alternate with each input between its A and B branch, so it will change from true to false, then to false to true. We make a flip-flop node, and then from A we set it to false, and from B to set it to true. The branch instead checks which the current value is. If it is true, it will set it to false. If it is false, it will set it to true. We do this by making a branch, connecting the value, and then setting the true to set to false, and the false to set to true. Now both our text can be hidden at will. Another thing we can do is make the number increase each time it maxes out, instead of simply being fully filled. To do this, we will need to add a branch at the end of our current blueprints to check if the bar is full or not. If it is full, it will set it back to 0 and increase the level by 1. You could use the ++ node if you prefer. If you increase the maximum clamp with 1, you can make it be full before it goes over to a level up. With this, we'll check if the value of our bar is over or equal to 100. If it is full, we'll set the bar value back to 0 and increase the level value by 1, while if it's false, it will do nothing. By dragging up a get value and typing in plus, we can set up the amount we want to increase the value with each time it happens. Plugging this into the set will add the increased value. You can instead use the add increment if you just want to increase it by 1 each time. We will then do the same thing for our minus path, only checking if it's empty instead of filled, and decrease the bar level by 1. We also need to bind the text itself to be the same as the bar level by simply dragging the integer into the return node. If compatible, the value should translate into the new one automatically. For the final part of this video, we're gonna make the bar flow rather than clip to the new value. So first of all, we need an integer value for a timer. Then we'll get a branch to determine whether the timer is on or off. We drag up from the integer value and check if it's more than 0. If it's true, it means it's on and it will do nothing when you click the button. If it's false, however, that means it's off and we will need to set the timer. I generally set it to 10 to begin with, then I can edit as I please. Now we need a second branch to determine when the timer ends. Drag up from the timer value and check if it's less than 1. If this one is true, we'll set the timer to 0. This isn't entirely needed, but I'll explain why I have a habit of using it. Float and an integer both hold number values. However, an integer can only hold full numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, while a float can hold commas like 0.123. The reason I'm using an integer value instead of a float for the timer is because floats have a tendency of not landing on perfect numbers. A quick demonstration. So we have our value on 0, and we start the timer. It goes from the first branch to the second branch, where the timer loops until it's done. Now a float value might not land exactly on 0. This means it could finally land on 0.1, which means it's below 1 and stop the timer, but it will be above 0, so it won't be able to start again. This is why I make sure it actually sets to 0 at the end, so it doesn't glitch out. Alright then. Now if the timer branch turns out false, we'll need to reduce the timer by 1. Again, for this we can use either a decrement node or a simple integer minus integer node, which we'll set to 1. Then we take our bar's percentage float value, then use either an increment or a float plus float node, which we set to 1. I prefer to use a minus or plus node because then I can edit how much I wish it to change. Then we'll use a clamp and set the new value. Finally, we'll set a delay to roughly 0.1 and loop it back to the branch. If we double click the line, we can move it around a bit so it doesn't block the view. Now our bar should fill more smoothly and not just clip to the new value. I realized at the end that it's better to have the delay before the changes are made, otherwise you'll be able to click the button prematurely, which can cause some bugs. Thanks anyone for watching, I hope it was helpful. In the final part we're gonna make some colorable UI elements and a functioning hourglass. Bye bye!